Are you gonna go coloring? Are we gonna go coloring? Are we? Are we gonna go coloring? That's right, we're gonna go coloring. Ooh. There you are. On your couch. Ah, comfy place. Comfy place. Yes. I love you too. Do you want a blanket, Tanya? Do you want a blanket, Tanya? You do. Okay, let's put a blanket in here. Hi, my name is Aksik, aka Annika, and welcome to my channel. Super happy to see you here. And it's once again time for coloring blog. Well, it's a fancy name for I have filmed several clips that are kind of random and they need a home. So they're all going to be in today's video. There's kind of, this time, mostly kind of random little coloring snippets. There's a couple of backgrounds, you know, how I do them, kind of ideas and stuff like that. The book I'm coloring at the moment, this is the Greek mythology, this book. It's a fairly small book, and my goal with this image is to color it all with those 12 double-sided Crayola pencils. Well, the inner part. I don't think I'm going to do the outer part with it. I'll probably do some metallics and some water-based markers and such there, because that would be tedious to do those with Crayolas, I'm sorry to say. And, you know, this is the package. These Crayolas came in. There's, as I said, 12 of them. Here they are. Not too many deep colors, let's be honest. Well, they kind of might look deep, but the pigmentation isn't really all there. But, you know, I've been trying to manage, and I think there's hope. We'll see how things are going to work out for me. I kind of purposefully chose a book that wasn't very big, you know, so I wouldn't get absolutely, you know, sick of trying to do it this way. I believe that you can pretty much color with any, well, there are some pencils that are absolutely hopeless, but, you know, any halfway decent pencil you can lay down and mix so you get decent enough results. This guy was now done with Crayolas. The main issue, of course, even on the good paper, I had real trouble kind of filling the tooth of the paper with them. So I had to eventually give in, and I pulled out my blender pencil. I think I did Derwent blender this time, which for some pencil, a harder pencil like this, tends to be my weapon of choice. I like Derwent blender pencil a lot. I like Caran one as well, but I think they have different, like, you know, one of them is good where other one doesn't work as well. Like for, as I said, for kind of a harder pencils like this, I find Derwent blender is better, and Caran d'Ache blender is really great at doing those kind of a really waxy soft pencil blends. Works really nice, those. So yeah, I'll just keep quietly working on these clouds here, see what, you know, color mixes I can achieve. The sky didn't come out half bad after, you know, it was blended. It wasn't awful, but, you know, you definitely, you know, however much I worked over it, the tooth of the paper was very visible still. It's just not enough kind of a pigment. So, but blender helped. So I'm kind of fine. I don't know if you can see here. There's a little bit maybe still visible, but I think it doesn't look bad. Considering, you know, I was done with, I don't know, was it 6 Crayola pencils? What did I use for sky? Okay, one can always find it out easily enough. Okay, I used navy blue. I used sky blue. I used turquoise. Yeah. I used, what's his name? Okay, I used magenta. I used red. And then I used, I think it's just called orange, possibly. Yeah, orange. And those 2 yellows. The set only has 2 yellows. Golden yellow and just yellow. So that's what I used in the sky. And now I'm doing the clouds, and I'm planning to give them cool, kind of a purplish base, and then warm them up with yellow, kind of gray it with yellow, and also give them kind of a yellow highlights at the bottom, because obviously there's sun shining underneath here. So I think those clouds should have kind of a yellow highlights at the bottom. Oh well, you leave me to it and have a look at the stuff I have filmed, little random things over the last couple of weeks. I like color variations in the petals, and it also kind of saves on heavy shading because you already have loads of interest in your petals. But I wanted to have fairly high contrasting yellow and also like proper violet in these petals. And as you know quite well, if you put these 2 colors, if you blend them into each other, because they're complementary colors, sorry, you will get mud. So how to get over that? It's actually very simple, because I just keep hitting this. I'm too close with the camera to the page. What I do is I put down the violet first, and then surround it. I choose the areas where I want it, and then I surround it on all sides with kind of a pink or red violet that will mix with yellow. And then after that, I put down the yellow. This is a watercolor pencil now I'll be talking about, and these are actually Carrot watercolor pencils. And when I start activating them, as you've been watching now, I first activate the yellow without doing anything else at all. I just get the yellow here wet. Then I go into the pink without going into the violet. I do a gentle blend into the pink. Then I tap my water brush into the tissue, and then I activate the violet and gently blend it into the pink, and we have a fun little color gradient or kind of a color variation in these petals. And you know, although I will put a little bit of pencil in there, I won't need much because I like that color variation pretty much as is. I think it's fun and, you know, has interest, and I don't have to do much extra work. Just the main thing is to kind of keep cleaning your brush if things get too dark, so you wouldn't kill your yellow. Oops, I just keep hitting that phone. And then going into the violet and kind of taking care to smooth out the transitions. And as you can see, it goes really fast, and putting down those colors with pencils also went very, very fast. It took me, I think, maybe 6 minutes to do all the petals that I wanted on this page. And then you just go in with your water brush and activate everything. And once it's dry, I probably will go in with kind of a dark violet pencil and give it a bit of an extra darkness in certain areas. But I certainly probably won't go smoothing over it, you know, all the petal with colored pencils, because I kind of like the texture, I like the color, I like the interest it achieved, and it's such an easy effect. So just, you know, when you're trying to do effects like this, just think about a transition color if you want bright color like this, or colors that don't blend very well together. Just choose a transition color that both of these colors work well with or blend well with. And here we go. Not a problem at all. You can have violet and yellow color variation petal done with watercolors and blended super fast. I deliberately now, you know, blend them all on the camera, and you can see how fast it's going. It's just almost no work. Just a little bit, blending it into the pink. I'm cleaning out the brush now, and now going into the violet. And blending it out into the pink. Doing a bit of a cleanup here with a clean brush, just in case, you know, something gets somewhere you don't want it. And there you are. This is how easy it is. I put a flat background here with a SimTap marker from Artex. This one, SimTap. Not that color, but that type of a marker. And although it looks decent enough, and you know, I could put another layer down, but I'm not really bothered. But it's kind of boring. So I thought I'll try out something with, these are Languam, those are foam core acrylic markers, so they're not the juiciest ones, but I don't have the correct colors in the juicier ones. So I'm going to try with these, and we'll see where it takes us. So I just put down a little bit of color. It's not opaque enough, and the good thing is, if I don't like it, I can always either wash it off totally or go over it with SimTap marker again, and it's going to be gone, because that's, you know, easy enough to get rid of. So I'm just trying to put a couple of different colors down. Like I'm going to put that down as well. It's kind of like pink, and we'll see where it takes us, or if it takes us anywhere. Quite possibly I will absolutely hate it, because I want kind of a almost transparent, but still, you know, a bit of a texture into that background and interest. We have to work fast because acrylic marker will dry fast. So to get any effect like this down, you have to pretty much dissolve it immediately. So I just keep adding, keep blending it out into little dots like this. Just, you know, some texture, some interest, so it wouldn't be kind of... I don't have anything against flat background. I actually like flat backgrounds. But sometimes you want a bit more interest. And we'll see how this will work out for us. So far, I think we can get somewhere. You know, eventually I will probably put some plain splatters on it anyway, but I wanted already something in the background. Okay. And I'm gonna leave you here alone. And just doing this, just taking it upwards. Just building up in layers and to eventually to see what the result is going to be. A little bit down, and this is still that pink, and blend that little bit out. I have a habit of sticking a marker in my mouth while I'm working quickly like that, but in this case I stick it into my mouth and then realize I can't talk, so there's a pause while I take the marker out of my mouth, which gives you a pretty good idea how organized of a person I am. This is also pink, but it's lighter pink, and on this space it pretty much kind of looks almost white. I think the pinkness of that one will only really show on white paper, so this one's just going to be a very light tone. And I just keep kind of a squiggling around with my water brush and then dabbing little dots. Okay, and I'm going to add that really light one here too, just to add a bit more effective area here, but I won't have it all around. I want it to have lighter areas and darker areas. I'm probably going to put that here in the corner. Usually I put darkness, you know, kind of behind something, but in this case I kind of almost want something a bit glowish. It's not really a glow, but there were sparkles. Yeah, we're getting there. I think that might be, you know, at least it's a bit more interesting than just plain purple background. Okay. And it also takes care of, you know, if you put even down maybe 1 or 2 layers of acrylic marker quickly, you often would need another layer to make it perfectly flat. But if you create a textured background like this, that is not really a problem, because that texture is going to disguise everything that might be a little bit uneven in the initial background paint. No? Squiggles and dabs, squiggles and dabs, and you get this kind of a smoky effect behind. And you know, you let it dry, and then the more layers you add, the more interest it's going to have. And then you can see how it seems like there's some sort of a magic going on behind it. And that's exactly what I want to achieve. But you have to build it up in layers, because diluting the paint like this on this acrylic base at first makes it pretty transparent. So you create this kind of squiggles and haze first, like you saw me doing in the beginning, and then you keep building it up, you know, lightening it up, adding more dabs going upwards. And the more you do it, the more magical and interesting it's going to look. Not that I know what I'm talking about, because that is just me experimenting in plain view. Haven't practiced, haven't tried anything out here. Just figuring out as I go. So I'm going to just put it here in the corners and see how we have this habit of, usually we would darken those areas there in the corners. But I'm going opposite here. I'm actually lightening them and then creating this kind of a haze. And I think it might give an interesting effect. You can see how it's just building up with the same marker. And eventually you can just put kind of that's with marker itself. You don't have to anymore dilute them. So I'm just going to add some dots here straight from the marker, and I'm not going to blend them out. And as I go upwards, I still have them, but I try to make them smaller and further apart and not very uniform. You know, if there's gaps, that's actually good. But have more of them near that circle here. And this could be pretty fun, I think. You know, nothing is guaranteed, but at least it's different. Well, I haven't done this one before, that's why it's different. I'm sure somebody else has done it exactly the same way, and I'm just thinking that I'm inventing the wheel here. But hey, we all have to learn our own way. And maybe I'm helping you to come up with your own idea. You might develop from it and, you know, do something else. Use different colors, use different materials. This is how it came out, at least the initial phase. I'm not sure if I'm going to put some splatters on it or not, but I think it's better than it was, just plain flat background. I did put some color behind the bee as well, and it did end up looking a bit like the bee is on fire, but hey, my page, my decisions, gotta own them. Anyways, we'll see how it comes out once it's finished. Are you doing the 1 ear thing again? Are you? I know, I'm sorry. I love you too. Yeah. Have a good nap. Mwah. Yeah, that's right. I am working now in an Any Day coloring book by Morgan O'Brien, which, you know, book that I absolutely love and book that I have a lot of pages done. I kind of aim to finish that eventually. It will probably be my one and only book I'll ever finish. Then again, miracles can happen, maybe, you know, eventually. And I just wanted to kind of show you how I, not always, but, you know, a way to approach coloring on top of alcohol markers. This being now the regular kind of a printed in UK, I think, Amazon book. And the paper, yeah, no, it's actually printed in France, but the paper is pretty much the same as UK, and it does not take anything, any media particularly well. It's a soft, fairly textured paper, and as you can see, I'm working here on top of alcohol markers, and of course it would be often faster and easier to do this toe shading with alcohol markers, but because the paper is so thin and so soft, they tend to bleed pretty badly. So shading, actually doing actual shading and all the coloring in alcohol markers is a bit of a challenge. So what I tend to do is I do throw in sometimes a bit of a shading. You can see I've thrown in kind of some darker areas to kind of simplify my work shading afterwards. But more often than that, I just put in flat color with alcohol marker, and then I go on top with pencils. And the pencils I prefer for these, that sort of a coloring, is fairly hard pencil, because the paper is very textured. If you go with a very soft pencil, you get a very strong paper texture, which is a bit of a pain to get rid of. It is possible, but it takes a lot more work. So if you work with a harder pencil to start with, then you have kind of a less work finishing it off afterwards and kind of getting rid of the texture. You can see, there's not a huge amount of it, but if there's some, the blender pencil, of course, or kind of blender stick will help. But these pencils now that I find actually quite nice for working in on images like this. There are several brands, and these are not the only ones I use in Amazon Books, but one of them that I can recommend for working kind of on top of alcohol markers are Marco Renoir Fine Art. I think it's a 120 set, and the color choices are pretty good. There's even a pretty decent kind of a, now you can do skin with pretty much any pencil set, but I find that they have pretty good easy selection for skin as well, and they lay down very nicely. They're more of a layering pencil, obviously, because they're harder pencil. They're more of a layering pencil, but they have nice colors. And I find the quality is nice, they're nice to hold, and I like the design. I think they look a lot like Spirefarben pencils that I've heard of, but that are pretty much available in US only. Well, they are kind of available in UK, but the price is absolutely crazy, The price in US is very, very good, and the price in UK Amazon is absolutely mental. So, I would not go buying it here. But I just wanted to show how easy it is to work with these pencils. And I kind of suspect they maybe they're the kind of a white label, or, kind of the same as Spirefarben, possibly, but I can't really, I don't have Spirefarben, so I can't really compare. I have kind of heard murmurs about that, but no actual proof. And of course, I've heard also that Marco themselves, deny it. So, doesn't really matter to me. They're good pencils, they're good quality. And as I said, more of a layering than blending pencil. Yeah, blending is not easy with these. You need to layer. But because they are fairly hard, and if you work with a sharp pencil, you can, if it's not a super light area like this, you can get away with just one pencil. Like most of these areas here, these yarn, balls of yarn, I've only used one pencil in there. The green here, It's just one pencil. The glass, I used 2 blue pencils. On those lollies, I used only 1 pencil to give them a bit of a shadow, and so on. So, you know, the lighter the color, the more you kind of need to work on blending. They, as usual for fairly budget pencil, have a bit of an issue with kind of more pastel tones and very dark tones. There's a lot of midtones. So I would always suggest for pencil sets like this, from any pencil sets, to have kind of additional set of pastel pencils. I recommend Brute Fooners because they are really good value and very good colors and good pencils and soft and blend with absolutely every pencil I've ever tried with them. So, you know, really good pencil to recommend, I find. So I seriously, you know, recommend those pencils. The dark ones, well, that's a different story. Like, there are some darks in here, you know, enough to kind of keep you going unless you want to go kind of super contrasted, in which case you can just, you know, supplement from your artist sets, because most of the budget sets, that's one of the issues with most of budget sets, they just don't have the darks. Artex pencil set, the original one, the 126 one, they have some pretty nice darks, but yeah, most of them don't. So what I suggest, you know, if you want to invest in some kind of expensive pencils, free kind of open stock, I would go for dark ones. These pastel ones, I wouldn't pay at first anyway, you know, if you're starting out, I wouldn't go and pay big money for them. But because you can, you know, get away with using Brute Fooners or Indra pastel pencils, which I don't know if they're available anymore, but they're very nice as well. But it's much harder to find good darks in any of the budget sets, and certainly I haven't seen any sets. I wish actually that some manufacturer would do, you know, just darks pencil set, you know, really dark colors, and I would definitely buy it and use it cheerfully. See, I got rid of, you know, if you can see it now close. To me, it's smooth enough, you know, I'm not going to work it to death. And that's because, and it was fairly easy because the set itself, you know, it's a hard lead, therefore it doesn't leave much texture showing to start with. If you put it down gently like that and, you know, have a fairly well sharpened pencil. So there, went a bit overboard here. I'm doing the nose. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to show, how I approach, well, one of the approaches to work on Amazon paper. Hard pencil on top of alcohol markers. Now that, of course, if you feel, you know, and you can also just cheerfully flat color. Nothing says that you need to be, you know, super shaded to start with. I just enjoy, you know, fairly high contrast on my pages, and because of that I need to do more shading. But I think more flat, kind of more graphic or more stylized style can be very elegant and beautiful, and, you know, you're playing more with color schemes than textures. That is also totally valid and very beautiful style of coloring, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. You know, you do you, whatever you enjoy, that's how you should color. And here's a lazy way of doing yarn. I'm just kind of doing pretend yarn here. Bit of a shadow in the middle, taking some strands out. There you go. Looks yarny. Or thread or whatever. I'm doing the same here. Okay, yeah. See? Super easy and took me about 30 seconds to do. I love this background method with watercolors when I want to depict something that is textured yet blurred in the background. The paper needs to be decent, at least decent, not amazing, but somewhat decent. But for this technique, although this specific paper is very nice, it's from Maria Trolles Sagen, and it's in the Swedish version. So really the paper takes water fantastically well. And how it works is that I take out with a water brush a little bit of, in this case, green. It can be any color, which is going to be kind of like my base color. And I blend it out kind of in a textured way. And then I kind of dab while it's still wet, in this case, yellow into it. But it could be also pink, you know, just to depict that there's something, some maybe blossoms or, you know, fluffy plants of different color growing in the background. And, you know, I just go, it's really nice to work that background. You can have tiny areas like that because it goes fast. You can work pretty precisely. It doesn't have to be super even, so you don't, you know, struggle to create this smooth, flat base for anything. You are actually going with the texture. You're leaning into the texture it creates. You want the texture there. So even as I am creating, you know, here actually it would have been pretty smooth, but I'm actually dabbing little dots of paint, even the same color, into the area as well, so it would have a little bit more texture, so it would look like there's like leaves and, you know, bits and pieces in the background. And then I put, you can see that, okay, there wasn't enough yellow there in that area for me, so I went in and dotted yellow there and then blended it quickly, kind of very gently out. The watercolors I'm using for this one, this specific one at the moment, it's a small Prima watercolor set, which is called Essence. And the colors, the main colors now I'm using for this kind of a foliage part are kind of a dark green and what I would call either, you know, kind of nice bright kind of golden or yellow ochre, and or you could have rose sienna or maybe cadmium yellow deep, kind of, you know, something very, it needs to be dark and slightly earthy yellow, I think, for this effect. Although you can do brighter yellow as well, but in this case use something like cadmium lemon that will push other color aside, which would give even cooler effects here. But you can see how I add, you know, I'm starting from pretty dark, and then I'm just working pretty much with the paint I have on the brush, essentially until it runs out. And I keep kind of dabbing the texture into it as well. And if I feel that there's some place there's too much paint, I kind of go back and kind of take away a bit even in some areas. And the green that I'm working with here, you know, if you were to look for it in some other kind of a paint versions, I think Hooker's green might be a good bet, you know, if you have that in your set. It's kind of fairly well known, and, you know, many sets have it. It's a lovely kind of a more natural green that I pretty much tried to get in most of the, you know, most of the watercolor paints I have. You know, if they have Hooker's green, I do try to get it. I like that green a lot. So yeah, I just keep going steadily. And you can see sometimes you know, there it is very, very tight. Unfortunately, now because the area is so small and behind my hand, it kind of loses the focus here a bit. And I also kind of sped it up a little because otherwise it would have just been too long. But as I get upwards, you know, to the top of the image or to the side of the image, I let the paint run out on my brush, and I just create this kind of a textured dabbed, you can see like this textured dabbed area at the top, and instead of trying to do a smooth blend out and smoothly and fade into white, I kind of create this effect that there's, you know, kind of a leaves and bits and pieces kind of glowing against, you know, kind of this white background. I think that looks, in this case, kind of more fun and more natural and more interesting than if I were just to kind of give a flat green back to it and then kind of blend it out into the white. I don't think it would look as nice and or, you know, or as interesting, because, and at the same time, that sort of a background, although it is textured and interesting, it does not overpower the image. It doesn't take over the whole thing. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to try. As you can see, it's super easy and it goes fast. This does not take long, and I also find it so very relaxing. You can just sit there and kind of, you know, quietly just blend it out, and there's no huge skill needed, you know, because it all pretty much is just take paint and let it run out as you essentially create the texture, and look up to move upwards and move to the sides. And here now there's I want to create kind of ground as well. I don't want the ground to be the same as the foliage behind the cat, the Puss in Boots. So I took this, this looks kind of like really beautiful yellowish deep brown that I'm now just using to create this kind of a earth beneath the cat's feet, and I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm essentially, you know, I'm kind of varying now here, you know, once again a little bit of foliage, and then I probably will go back soon to do more of the, no, I actually went back up. See, you know, it's kind of a bit chaotic, but that's how I work, you know, most of the time. And now you see again how I just, you know, kind of fade upwards with a texture. And then I dab a little bit of color into it, and that's how simple it is. And, you know, there's no big trick or art to it. Just, you know, let yourself to be loose, relax, don't stress out about it, don't try to be perfect, don't try to be super exact or precise, or, you know, follow exactly what I do, because that's not what it's about, you know. Just relax and let yourself go and play with your brush and play with the textures you can achieve. And here I kind of went a little bit closer with my phone to see if I could get a bit, you know, kind of a better picture. And now you can see clearly the little kind of a very faint texture I leave, like above the butterflies. At the same time, I wanted something behind the butterflies, so I took it up enough so there would be a little kind of very light, hazy idea of the foliage behind the butterflies. But it's not overwhelming anything. And here again, you know, the paint had dried. I didn't drop the yellow in soon enough, but I was able to just dab it in on the dry background, and then I went in with, you know, I cleaned my brush. I went in and kind of quickly and softly blended it out into those stains. And that's pretty much, you know, all there is. I find it really fun background. I can see in this book, especially on a good paper like this, it's such a breeze. It's so easy to do because the paper allows you to do it. But even on kind of a poorer quality paper, because it's textured, because you're not trying to kind of get very smooth blends, you can actually almost do that sort of a background on, you know, more decent versions of Amazon paper. Do you know what I mean? Kind of just, you know, dabbing, you know, don't rub, dab. And let the paint run out, you know, start in kind of a darker corners and let the paint run out on your brush naturally as you are fading it out in kind of a texturized way, like you see. And I'm creating a bit more of a bush effect there, so I gave a bit stronger textured effect on the side there. And back to our mythical book. I did the shadows in these clouds with navy blue, and now I am moving on to, what is this called, orchid, and I'm going to kind of slightly warm some areas. I won't go over the whole cloud. I'm trying to kind of do it fairly quickly, just one cloud, so I'll show you, you know, what I'm doing here with these. You know, just in some areas, and maybe just bring it out into the white as well, so it actually stands on its own, this orchid, for a little bit. Just add some color variation is basically what I'm doing here, so it wouldn't be flat and uninteresting. And then I'm going to grab the magenta. This is magenta. And I'm going to once again add some colorful areas and bring a little bit of it into the white, just to keep it visually appealing. And I think the top, like here, I'm going to outline it with yellow on the bottom and probably gray, pale gray on the top, to give kind of fairly, you know, don't, like if I put white around it, I kind of kill the whole effect. In this sky, evening sky, there's not going to really be white. There's going to be really like something is in the shadow, or it's brightly lit by this setting sun that throws really warm, sharp highlights. So see, I'm bringing it in, and a little bit here, and this one I probably will actually kind of almost leave to white there at the top, but a lot of it needs very warm highlights. Okay, and now there's enough now darkness. I brought in the, no, that's the wrong one, sorry. I brought in orange, and I am going to desaturate and mute all this purple. So I'm just going to go over gently with orange all the darker areas, and very, very slightly I'll bring it into the white as well, as I did with all the previous pencils. Very gently, not too much. Just making sure that we're now, so it wouldn't be so violet or so purple, the shadow tone. It's still cool, it's still purplish, but we are desaturating it. Okay, a little bit into the white, a little bit into the white, and a little bit into the white. And now I'm going to grab the golden yellow, which is this pencil, and I'm going to bring it a little bit into the kind of a white, but leave some white just exposed as well. So a little bit, and take it a little bit into the some areas of the kind of a shadow as well. So some areas would be warmer shadows, some areas would be cooler shadows, as you would have in life, you know, so it wouldn't be all uniform and boring. Okay, here I didn't have enough purple down, so I got a bit of a green here, but I am going to fix it, ouch, sorry, with purples. See? All fixed. Of course, this spot is now a little bit darker than other spots, but I probably will want to add a little bit extra shadow here and there anyway. Okay. And I think the orange was a bit harsh here. I need to soften it out to be able to blend things out. So I'm softening the orange a bit to transition, putting some more yellow. Okay. And maybe I'm going to add a little bit more red into it. This I think is called just red. Just to keep it kind of more interesting. It's getting a bit dull and flat. So I'm just, but I don't want to now go too dark with the clouds either. Okay. Alrighty. And now I am grabbing the blender pencil, which is this one, Derwent blender. And I'm starting with the lightest areas, doing these first. And of course, blender pencil always will kind of wake up the colors a bit. Making sure that I'm keeping it reasonably clean. I think I need more yellow here, a little bit more, because that sun will definitely throw some yellow onto that cloud as well. Okay, and now I'm going to do the full blending here. So I'm just going to go over the darker areas as well. And you can see you get this nice, interesting purplish gray as a shadow color in the clouds. And it also has variations. It's not exactly the same all across the cloud. So I might, you know, add some extra color here and there, kind of darken some areas. Other than that, I think that's decent enough. And there we go. Crayola clouds. I will probably add some, you know, a little bit of extra shadow, you know, darkness in some spots to kind of make it more interesting. But it's mostly ready. Oh, that's what it looks like. Okay, thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with me. I hope you had some interesting moments during this video. Have a wonderful evening or morning or afternoon. whatever the time is in your corner of the world. Please, if you like my videos, like and subscribe, comment, talk to me, ask questions, make suggestions, and see you soon again, hopefully. Bye-bye. Are you comfortable? Are you sure? You in a sunspot with the fan going. Life is good, eh? Yes, it is.